Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel The Growing Developer, and here I am with yet another video on state management series. And my motto for this video would be like to solve all your provider related queries once and for all. Okay, so I don't know how much longer this video might become, but I'll try to wrap it up as soon as possible. But yes, I'll try to make it clear to all of you. Okay, so yeah, without wasting any of the time, let's start with the provider. I know I'm already late with the videos I upload after week or some. I'll try to be consistent so that you have a good continuous flow of the information and the knowledge. So let's begin with this tutorial video.
The Growing Developer.
Okay, so as you can see, what I have is a basic UI structure for you. Like I might have some kind of slider image here, and then I have a list view of this product. Okay, so this is something that we have already discussed in my previous videos, like how we can create this kind of UI. So don't worry, we'll move forward with the state management principles and stuffs, and then we'll also make a complete e-commerce mobile application using Firebase as well as using some API. So stay tuned. Okay, so yes, and let's start. So as you can see that I have just a placeholder for my slider image. Then I have a list view builder which shows that I might have some multiple products, and this is a page which is this is a button which is showing add to cart. So this button when pressed has to do the operation of adding it to the cart. Okay, so I'll do it in one way, and then we'll see what kind of problems we might have, and then I'll tell you where provider comes into picture. Okay, so it's always better to know why do we need provider. Okay, let's start. So as you can see that I'm returning a material app, and from there I'm returning a home page, and from that home page all the logic goes there. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is inside my home page I will just do one thing. I'll create a list, name it as cart list. Okay, this should be empty. So one thing here is that this is a stateless widget, so what I'm gonna do needs a stateful widget. So let's convert it to a stateful widget first. Okay, because I want the UI to be updated whenever there is a change in the cart list. Okay, so next thing is this is my add to cart button, and on press of it what I'm going to do is I'll just add cart list dot add the index. Okay, so let me just give you a quick overview of the list view builder. I'm having the item count as 10, and from the item builder I'm passing the context and the index. Okay, so this is the index which will be governing the my like which item has to be displayed and where. Okay, so when I say on pressed cart list dot add index, that means if I press on this button, okay, this first button, then 0 will be added to cart list. Why? Because this index is 0 right here. Okay, hope you're able to understand this. Right now first element will have my index as 0. So when I click on the button on the first element, it will add 0 because I'm adding the index right now, just for your demonstration purpose. Okay, and I wanted to update the UI, so let me just set state so that the changes can be seen here. Okay, so I'll cut it and paste it here. Okay, so where to display the changes, let me see, maybe here. Okay, so as a child to this I'll just use a center widget, and inside that as a child I'll pass text which will display cart list dot length dot toString. Why am I using dot toString? Because this length will be a number and you cannot pass a number to a text, you have to change it to a string. Okay, let's save this. So you can see that 0 is being displayed here. Let me just increase the size so that it is visible to you. Textile, and then the size as 24. Okay, yeah, it's much more visible. Okay, so let's try it. Let's save this once again, and yep, if I click on add to cart, 1 is being displayed here. Good. 3 is being displayed here. That means there are 3 items. right now we are not governing, or we have not written any logic that if this item is already present in the cart, then do not add it. Okay, so here let me just print the cart list as well, so that you can see what is being added to my cart list. Okay, so yes, let's see. So if I press on add to cart, you can see that 0110, and this is the last element that I just added. Okay, so I have 1 2 3 4 5 elements, and 5 is being displayed here. Okay, so let's change something. I'll get a new file, name it as cart page. Okay, so this is my cart page, and inside that let's just import material package. If it is not visible, let me just increase the text as yes. Okay, next thing is let's create a stateless, or rather stateful widget. Okay, so cart page, and here what I want to display is that inside this body I just want a center text widget which says cart list. Okay, cart list dot length. First of all, now one error, I don't have any cart list here, so I have to pass that cart list from the previous screen. Okay, so let's create a constructor for that. So this is how you will pass one value from the other screen. Okay, so it's like this. Let's create a constructor. So create constructor for final field, and here I can write widget dot cart list dot length. Okay, dot to string. Sure. Okay, so inside this text I am showing my cart list length, and let's just unpress of this button. Which button should I use? Actually, let's set that on this container. Okay, so on this container I'll use a gesture detector, and on top of it I want to navigate to a new page. Navigator dot push context route will be material page route, and then inside this builder I'll just pass my page, which is cart page. Okay, so like this. So let's see what happens. Okay, now inside this cart page I need to pass the values as well. So inside this cart list I'll pass the cart list. Let's save this and let's go. So if I press here, you can see that 5 is being printed here. Okay, now understand this. 5 is being printed here. If I go to here, and let's do one thing. Instead of just a text, I'll just wrap up in a column, and after that I'll use a flat button. Okay, which will say text delete one element. Make sense? Now on press of it, what I want is widget dot cart list dot remove last. So what I'm doing is that whenever this button will be pressed, let me just save this, and I guess it has to be better to be in center. So yes, so what this button will do is whenever I'll press this button delete one element, it will remove one element from the last position. Okay, let's see. So if I press on this, so it is deleting the element, but the UI is not being updated. So let's just set state as well. So yes, like this. Let's try it. So you can see that 3 is being printed here. If I press it once more, 2 is being displayed here. But once I go to my previous screen, you can see that 3 is being printed here. Let's go again to this. It is showing 2, but if I go here, it is showing 3. Let me just add up. I'm adding it to the cart. I'm getting 6 elements. Let's go to the other screen. It is showing 6. If I delete one element, so it is showing again 2, but if I go back, it is still showing 6. So my previous page is not being informed about any of the changes. Okay, let's see how we can do it with the providers and make it to listen to all the changes, right? Makes sense. Okay, so what we're going to do is, instead of only using these variables, I'm going to use models. What are models? We have already discussed in the previous video, like what are models and how to create models. There are some different approaches with provider. Let's see. So I'll create a new file, a new Dart file. Yes, so I'll name it as my cart model. Okay, it's always better to create it into separate folders, but I'm only making it for demonstration purpose. Ignore these red colors, these are just for my get issues. Okay, so let's just import material package, and this was not even needed actually. So I'll create a class cart, or rather my cart. Okay, now this is a model, that's it. A class is said to be a model. Now inside this I'll create a new list, so it will be list cart list. Okay, that's it. Let me just create it empty, and here I'll create a method. Okay, so add to cart method. What this add to cart method will do, whatever value it will get from the parameter, so I'm here writing it as index. Okay, so I will pass the index from this in my parameters. So what it will do is, it will just do the operation of add index. Okay, makes sense. So what we were doing right now is that whenever this add to cart button was pressed, we were adding the index to it. So same way we are going to do, but using this model. I'll call this add to cart method, and then it will add the index. Okay, next thing, remove at last from cart. Okay, so this is my another method which will serve the task of removing the element from the last. Remove last. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so what it is doing, I'm adding and removing it. So instead of using simple variables or something like that, I'm using a model for that. Okay, now the problem arises if I'll create a model here, okay, and do any number of operations on it, but we'll face the same problem. Why? Because on the next page we'll have to create a new model and the UI will not be notified of anything. So for that, what we'll do, this will extend a change notifier. Okay, so what does change notifier do? This is a native class. Okay, so whenever my class will be is extending this change notifier, I'm able to access one method which is notify listeners. So any of the widget which is listening to any of the changes, or any of the widget which is listening to this my cart model, will get to know that there is a change in the cart list, so please rebuild. Okay, now next thing is how to make our widget listen to them, and why are we using the providers, and why should we use the provider. Now comes the provider in the picture. So provider is something that we will set up in the root module, just like a scoped model. I'll prefer if you just go ahead and watch the scoped model video and then watch this provider. So this provider tutorial will be very easy for you, but no worries, we'll just start from the scratch itself. Okay, so I'll get to main.dart. What is my root widget? Can you tell me what is the root widget for my application in Flutter? It is material app. Okay, so I will wrap this material app with a widget known as provider. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so the error is thrown. Let me just import the provider. So I'll just import it. I forget that you need to import this, so I go to pubspec.yaml and we will just install this provider package. Let me just zoom out. zoom in actually. So you can see that this is the plugin that we have to install to use the providers. You might already be knowing that. Okay, so let's move forward to main.dart. So you can see that I have wrapped this material app with a provider. Why am I fixing, or why am I attaching a provider to the root level? Understand one thing. We use approach known as provider and consumer. So let's understand the basic English terms. Provider means something which will provide, and consumer means something which can consume what my provider is providing. Okay, so suppose I am providing you something, you are consuming that knowledge. Okay, but if I'm not providing anything, how will consume it? You might follow different approaches, but yet those different approaches are providing you something. So it is asking for, I guess, create. Okay, so now it asks like, what do you want to create, or what do you want to provide? So how to do it? I'll create a model of my cart here, and I have to give generic types as my cart. Okay, so what is happening here? I'm saying when this widget is created, that is whenever your application is loaded, just create one model of my cart. Now, are many of the problems are solved if only one model will be populated or will be distributed among all the widgets? Because any changes happens in one object, it can be seen. But if we are using multiple objects of the same class, then those objects behave differently. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so this provider is right now providing everything. Let's restart this application and see if it is working or not. We should not have any errors, and everything resets to 0. It is quite working well. Let's see. We'll go to home page. Okay, now what do you want? I want that when this add to cart button is pressed, so let's go to our add to cart button, this flat button. This cart list is being added. First, let's just remove this cart list. Okay, now the problem arises that I don't have access to cart list. How am I gonna build? Where is the cart list? The cart list is inside my cart model. So how to do it? First, let's do this. So I will just wrap my text with something known as consumer. Okay, so I have to import the library provider. So let's just import the provider. Okay, so this consumer expects a builder method, and what this builder do? It will take up the context, then it will give us the model. So which model? Let me just create as my model, or you can name it as my cart itself. Okay, and then the child. The child is right now useless for us. Okay, so it's not like useless, but we'll not be using it right now. So that's it. So what I'm doing, I'm building based on my context, my cart model. So what is this model? What is this child? Let's just ignore the child for at present. Okay, so instead of this, what I'll do, I'll write my cart dot cart list dot length dot to string. Okay, but this consumer doesn't know which provider to access. Okay, so how to make it how to make sure that this consumer is actually referring to this provider? Yes, you guessed it right, we have to use the generic types. So here I'll just add the generic types as my cart. That's it. Need to import it. That's it. Now I am able to listen to all of the changes. We'll do the same thing for our add to cart button as well. Let's do it. So I'll go to flat button, wrap it with a widget, name it as consumer. Okay, I need to give the generic types. It's like a practice for you. Okay, so the generic type would be so what will be the generic type? It will be the model that we just created, so it has to be my cart. Okay, we don't need any child parameter right now, so we will use a builder. It will take up the context, Then I'll take up my cart model and then the child, and then just return the flat button. Okay, so I'll remove the child parameter. Okay, so it should be my cart dot cart list dot add. Let me just remove everything from here, and I don't need even the set state. So I need to add anything to my cart. So which method should I use? So you know that we created a cart, we created a method known as add to cart. Okay, so add to cart and then the index. You will see that I'm no longer using any kind of set state for this, right? Let's just go to this, and I'll remove this. Okay, I don't need any kind of objective present. Let's go to the cart page and I will just remove all of this. So right now I'm not passing anything. So for this column as well, I'm gonna use, you guessed it right, a consumer, and then I'll just give it generic types of this. Of course, it will take up the builder property. Okay, it will take up the context, then my cart model, and then the child, and I'll just return it. That's it. Need to import the consumer from the provider library. That's it. So instead of widget, I'll use my cart dot remove at last from cart. Okay, let's just remove the set state as well. So what is happening? I'm doing all the stuff using consumers and providers. So wherever at every positions where I used consumer, that consumer will be notified of any changes from the provider. Okay, let's just restart this once again and see if everything works fine or not. So I restarted the application. We got some kind of errors. Let's see what are those. The following assertion was throwing consumer dependencies. Try to use provider with a subtype of listable stream. Okay, so one thing, instead of this provider, what was the error actually? This provider is used when you need to pass the values, but once you need to be notified of all the changes, you will use ChangeNotifierProvder. Okay, so that's how we do it. So we have used a ChangeNotifierProvder. It's just another kind of provider. What is the difference between a normal provider and this ChangeNotifierProvder? The only difference is that this ChangeNotifierProvder will be notifying all of its consumer about the changes. Okay, right now we want the changes to be updated. That's why we have used ChangeNotifierProvder. Let's restart this once again. And yep, no errors so far. So I think everything looks good and fine. Let's try adding it to the cart. I add to the cart, 1 is being displayed, 2 is being displayed, 3 is being displayed, and everything works fine. Okay, so you can see that these are updated. Let's go to my cart page. Let's delete one element. I deleted one element and it is showing that the cart length is 6 right now. Let's delete one more element. So it is 5 right now. Let's go back, and once I press back, you can see that 5 is being printed here. That means my widget, which was present way before the screen, way in the previous screen, is also updated. Let's try once again. I add to cart, 6 is being printed here. Let's move on to the cart page, and you can see 6 being printed here as well. Let's delete 3 elements. So the remaining elements are 2. If I go back, 2 is being updated here. And one more fun fact, that I'm not at all passing any kind of list to other classes using the constructors. As you can see, this value is empty right now. So that's the beauty of ChangeNotifierProvder and the consumer. So let's quickly do a recap of whatever we learned and see how it is working. Okay, So you can see if I go to my main.art file to the root widget, which is my material app, to the root level, I've used a change notifier provider. Why? Because I want the provider to be notifying all of its children, or I can say all of its consumer, about any changes. And this create method will expect a model. Okay, so I created a model of this cart model type, right? So I'm creating a model, and this one model will be distributed to all of the widgets present in my applications. Okay, next let's move on to my home page. So you can see that this cart length was being displayed here, and when I press on this button, this was being updated. So there were two places where I needed the consumers. First one was this, because I wanted this widget, this slider widget, to be updated about the cart length. The next is this. Okay, let's move on to my new page, and this new page as a whole is also acting as a consumer. So I have wrapped this in consumer as well. You can see here consumer with the type, generic type as my card. Now, how to help consumer determine which provider to use? We use the generic types. That it is very important. Okay, and what is the structure of the builder of consumer? It takes up the context, then it passes my cart model, whatever type you give here, and then the child. So we use this model that is being passed by the consumer, and that's it. Important points to notice. First of all, as you can see, we got the errors. Use change notifier provider if you're using a provider and consumer approach. First thing. Second thing, if you see in my cart model, I have used notify listeners method in both of my methods, right? So if I don't call notify listeners, the UI will not be updated because my consumers are not at all notified of any changes. So this is very important stuff. Okay, so that's all for this video, I guess, and we are left with multi providers and the simple providers. Okay, so that's a concept that I want to discuss in one video only. Okay, so till now this is the provider that we normally use in most of our applications. If I go back here, so you can see that I can't think of any complex application than an e-commerce application, and this add to cart has left me very confused back when I started Flutter. Okay, so this provider introduction of provider made it very easy, and here I am with this explaining you exactly how you're gonna do it if you face something like that. Okay, so it's a practical example in front of you. Okay, now your problem. Now you might have one question that, okay, this is about one model. What if I want to pass multiple models? What if I want to only access the values and not listen to it? Because I just want to do some calculations and I don't want any UI to rebuild itself. So what to do at that point? Okay, so we'll look into that. Don't worry. In the next video, hopefully in 2 or more days. Yeah, I know I don't actually stay on the schedule, but still I'll try my best to upload it as soon as possible, and stay tuned. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated of it. This is my motto. I will just demyth everything about the state management thing, and just keep the technology learning as simple and as fun as possible. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much for watching this video till end, and hope you like this video, hope you learned something from this video. Next video will be uploaded soon, and for any queries, any comments, just write it in the comment section. I'll answer it as soon as possible. Thank you so much for giving your time. Have a good day. Goodbye.